So, dear Minister, thank you for having us here. So my first question will be, on May 22nd, Ireland, Spain and Norway have officially recognized the state of Palestine, and just 8 days later, Slovenia did the same. So what is the main reason for this decision?
It was an easy decision, I would say, thinking about the Palestinian nation, how they were suffering and how there was no really way forward for a permanent ceasefire and discussions on a Palestinian statehood. Still, it was not that easy when I look the challenges that we faced inside the European Union and the international community. We were nevertheless 3-4 countries that recognized Palestinian statehood, but I have to say that the message was very strong and very important. In time I was traveling back and forth to Tel Aviv, to Ramallah, to discuss with everyone engaged what can we do to really bring to a ceasefire and a permanent cease in the region. And what can I say is that for Slovenia, it's very important, it's in our DNA that every nation has a right to self-determination. And we send a message of hope. We wanted to make people understand that they deserve their land and that they need to be on equal footing when it comes to the negotiations for the future political architecture of the region.
So can you speak on the support of the Slovenian government and public for Palestinians, historically and currently, as you recently described Slovenia as one of the most vocal supporters for Palestine?
I mean, that is what I meant when I said it was an easy decision, because the government was fully in line, and our citizens also, the latest Vox Populi that we did, so public support to the recognition of Palestinian statehood was above 60%, so quite strong support. And I believe that was also the reason that, you know, Slovenia also went through bloody wars, and there was a strong understanding and sentiment that Palestinians, it's not an issue from yesterday, but also for decades they were suffering and fighting for their land. And we strongly believe that, maybe from the perspective of small nation, that we have to support the weak population, and that was also according to all the resolutions or whatever we were doing in the last years and decades through the United Nations.
Of the 27 members of the EU, 11 have recognized Palestine. So can we see this list even going further more in 2025?
Let me first say that we have a very fragile ceasefire. What we need to see first and utmost is the ceasefire to continue and to have a second and third phase. So the continuation of a ceasefire that leads to a permanent, lasting, just peace in the region. We need a bigger humanitarian assistance to a population. We need a release of hostages and the political prisoners or prisoners Palestinians to continue. And then we have to discuss very frankly about two-state solution. We are engaged a lot with our partners in the European Union, also with our partners in the Arab world, in the international community. I think the two-state solution is today more alive than the discussions than in the past, but I think we have a very narrow window of opportunity. So whether there are new countries in the sight of European Union, I difficultly say, but I know there are at least 3-4 that were all the time considering doing it so. So I think they're just waiting, where are these good moments? We are part of Global Alliance initiative of really implementing two-state solution, and one thing that gives hope is also that all countries of the European Union are supporting the two-state solution. So there is no doubt that we all agree that only the recognition of Palestinian state as a sovereign, independent country can bring the safety for Israelis and Palestinians living side by side. Today I don't see really a better alternative.
And what is the line actually dividing, like you said, the countries are mostly supporting this two-state solution, and from the other side there is recognizing them officially. What is this like tiny line between these two decisions?
That I often ask my colleagues when we were discussing also last year. Some were saying, yes, we would also recognize, but we want to see the result on the ground. And you know what can be the result of the ground? Of course, we would like also in parallel to see peace and ceasefire. But when I realized that there was no hope when we discussed, no hope for a ceasefire, no willingness from the government in Tel Aviv to think about two-state solution, to recognize Palestinian statehood, that's why we did this courageous and the only right step. I still am convinced today so. But my colleagues believe there should be still a better moment, like first we need to end the atrocities, end the war in Gaza, and then really strengthen the Palestinian Authority, make necessary reforms, so they require more clarities when is the best time for a recognition. I think the best time was back in the past. It's never too late, so I do hope we are, as Slovenia, really trying to encourage our friends and partners to follow us.
And would you like to address the current ceasefire in Gaza and US President Donald Trump's statements on taking over and owning Gaza and denying Palestinians' right to return? And also we saw the video that Donald Trump has shared on his Instagram profile where he's representing something like Trump's Gaza. How do you comment all this?
I will say it very clearly that any forced displacement of Palestinians, be it Jordan, be it Egypt, is unacceptable and is against the international law. So we said that at several occasions, Palestinian land, I mean East Jerusalem, West Bank and Gaza belongs to Palestinians. And we have to recognize that. So we are strongly worried nowadays to see the increased violence in the West Bank, the possible threats on annexation of West Bank. This is all that is against the international law. We have clear court decisions, opinions that Israel has to, also from the United Nations General Assembly, resolutions that Israel has to withdraw from illegally annexed Palestinian territory. So Slovenia is committed to the work of United Nations, to the work of international tribunals, and we will be very loud on that. So we have to work on a two-state solution because, as I said, this is the only guarantee also for the future, for the peace in the region. I also was recently visiting Jordan. I spoke to the King of Jordan, and I know that for Jordan, for Egypt, this is unacceptable. We really need to think how to bring to a just and lasting peace in the region. And I think they have to understand that also in the White House. And I know that the Arab countries are building an alternative plan how to make this peace sustainable in the region. And I can just say that we Europeans are working closely with Arab countries, and I do hope that we will make some good progress on that.
And how would you describe Israel's actions in Gaza, the occupied West Bank, and against international organizations such as UNRWA? And also, what are the actions your government is taking against Israel?
Agencies such as UNRWA that supports refugees, people in need, civilians in Gaza and elsewhere, when it comes to education, health, are indispensable, and UNRWA in our eyes is indispensable. So Slovenia was really trying to support agency through hard times. We also in the United Nations co-sponsored and actually put forward the initiative how to really help UNRWA also financially. We got the support of more than 120 countries, so we were very vocal and we never really stopped our financial support to the agency. This is crucial if you look to the horrible situation of civilians on the ground. So we also were trying to make pressure on the Israeli government not to fully implement this legislation and be prepared for necessary phase out, if that would be really at some point becoming a reality. But I do hope not at the near future. We also have now the ICJ case or opinion that Slovenia will join with our statement. What is the obligation of Israeli authorities when it comes to the work of humanitarian organizations in occupied Palestinian territories? So we are very clear on that we should really support humanitarian organizations.
And do you have any suggestion or idea what other countries maybe can do in order to stop all these atrocities and illegal settlements and everything that Israel is doing? What would be the good way?
I mean, every country that has a leverage to bring to peace in the region has to use it. And what is now important, and I can commend the role of Qatar, of Egypt, of also United States, to be engaged in ensuring second, third phase of a ceasefire. What is now really important is to really maintain to the agreement, to have clear next phases. The second, to exchange still the hostages and Palestinian prisoners, but also to bring to a permanent ceasefire. I think the whole international community can and must do its share. And at the same time, we, are supportive to the Palestinian authorities because they will have one day to be strong enough to control and manage their own territories.
And lastly, what would be your message to Palestinian people in the name of Slovenian government?
I mean, if just speaking out of my heart as a Slovenian, I can just say you are not alone to Palestinians because we have a strong support. We completely do our everything possible to bring to peace, to ensure sufficient humanitarian assistance, to also work in the international community as a non-permanent member in the Security Council, that the peace is urgent, that we also need to really implement the two-state solution. So Palestinians, you are not alone. Our hearts are with you, and I really wish that the suffering ends.
Thank you so much.